We all grew up with gaming in some form or another. I think we can agree to that, especially if you're watching this video at least. Maybe you spent your childhood lost in the imaginative, colorful wonderlands of Nintendo, hovering over the enemies of Planet Popstar, jumping across the vibrant landscapes of the Mushroom Kingdom, or braving the vast, untamed fields of Hyrule. Maybe you were a PC kid, carving out your own unique adventures. You could have been building massive castles and defending them from enemy lures and stronghold. Maybe you were exploring the enchanted lands of Daventry and King's Quest, or even brushing up on your own problem-solving skills by cooking up a pizza for a hungry troll.
More toppings!
Maybe you were all about the Xbox. You fought alongside Master Chief in an intergalactic war in Halo. You sped through the picturesque landscapes of Forza. Or maybe you played with Time in Blinks the Time Sweeper. Does anybody remember Blinks? Anybody? I myself grew up on... Yeah, that. The PlayStation. Something about that gray lunchbox was just different compared to what Nintendo and Sega were dishing out at the time. Well, Nintendo at least. Let's be real, who was really out here playing on the 3DO, the CDI, or the Saturn? And don't try to lie to me, I know a lot of you didn't. Some of you might have because you actually had the money, but most of us did not. Anyways, PlayStation had a way of standing out from the crowd. Sure, Nintendo had its heavy hitters, Mario, Star Fox, Kirby, and plenty of other beloved franchises, but Sony? Sony was playing a different game. The PlayStation wasn't just about mascot platformers, though it did give us Crash and Spyro, or big-named RPGs. Final Fantasy VII, anyone? It was about pushing boundaries, took existing franchises like Metal Gear and made them legendary. It even gave Rampage, yes, Rampage, a bit of extra shine. But beyond the games themselves, the PlayStation represented something bigger. Experimentation, inspiration, and much like Nintendo, creativity. It was a system that took risks, and that's what made it special. Why, just look at the lineup. You could be a bandicoot who wears shorts, collects crystals and gems, and goes up against his own creator. You could be a dragon trying to save the mystical lands from evil magic wielders. You could be a talented dancer who goes against aliens and giant robots. You could be a tank that blows everything up in your path while shouting quips.
Wanky, wanky, tanky, tanky, what the is that?
You could be a guy with pink hair who throws pigs everywhere. You could go against zombies and other monsters in a mansion, or traverse an abandoned town covered in fog. You could be a rapping dog trying to impress his girlfriend, a rock star lamb with severe social anxiety, or maybe a vampire turned wraith seeking revenge, a guy with no limbs, a one-eyed skeleton knight, a skateboarder who can defy the laws of physics, or go back in time to stop monkeys from taking over the world. Then the PS2 came out and things got better. Better graphics, better sound, and more creativity. You could be a sneaky raccoon that steals from master criminals, a lumbax flying around the galaxy with a little robot and a variety of creative weapons to blow things up, run around as a guy whose best friend is a critter that's a mix between an otter and a weasel. You could be a mosquito that steals blood from a family of three. Okay, you get the idea. To me, PlayStation as a whole has always represented experimentation and the level of creativity that, honestly, feels rare outside of today's indie scene. That spirit carried well into the PS3 era, with games like Infamous, Heavy Rain, and The Last of Us. But then the PS4 came out, and maybe it's just me, but something changed. The magic started to feel different. I don't mean that Sony stopped making great games, far from it. But once God of War 2018 hit, it felt like the brand had settled into a new formula. It wasn't a bad game, I'm not saying that, but it did mark a shift in what PlayStation wanted to be. Because here's the thing, on the surface, PlayStation still champions narrative-driven experiences and variety. You can roam a zombie-infested Oregon on a motorcycle in Days Gone, hunt towering robots animals in Horizon Zero Dawn, experience an older, more reflective Kratos in the God of War Norse saga, swing across New York as Spider-Man, or fight to reclaim Tsushima from the Mongols in Ghost of Tsushima. The ideas are diverse, the settings are unique, the stories are compelling, but when you pull back the veil, you start to notice something: the gameplay. Let's take a look at God of War and Ragnarok. Both are open world titles with various equipment to unlock along the way. You can collect trinkets to sell, gather resources to upgrade your gear, engage in an intricate, highly customizable combat system, and of course, a memorable story. Alright, cool. How about Spider-Man on PS4? Well, it's an open world game with various equipment to unlock. You can collect trinkets and resources to upgrade your gear. It has an intricate combat system where you can play however you want, and of course, a memorable story. Okay, what's Days Gone like? Open world, unlockable equipment, trinkets, resources, intricate combat, memorable story. Ghost of Tsushima, open world, unlockable equipment.
Boring!
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's brand new.
Yeah, well, I saw it on a rerun.
Actually, Horizon might be the worst offender out of the games I've listed. It is so big, so bloated, and crammed with so many things to see and do that I flat out dropped the game 14 hours in on what's supposed to be a 22-hour long main story, mind you, because I felt like I wasn't actually getting anywhere. I don't know if Forbidden West fixed this issue, because Zero Dawn left me feeling drained by its sheer demand for my time, and beyond that, it just feels soulless. I have zero interest in checking out Forbidden West, zero interest in the LEGO spin-off, zero interest in the upcoming movie, and you better believe I don't give two shakes of a damn about the now cancelled MMO live service game. Oh, but don't worry, we'll circle back to Sony's obsession with live service games later on in the video, because that is a hot button issue for me. Looking back at Sony's entire catalog stretching back to the 90s, I have never seen them push a series harder than Horizon. And for a franchise that has such mixed reception, it makes me wonder, was this series ever meant to stand on its own, or is it just a corporate plant in the gaming industry like a lot of people accuse it of being? Honestly, just thinking about Horizon makes me exhausted, so let's move on to my next issue. And this one isn't just about Sony, it's a broader problem with the AAA industry as a whole, but Sony sure as hell is the leading man of it all. Realism. Look, I get it, I really do. Visual quality in games improves over time. It comes with technology improving. But at this point, how much more realistic can we make these guys? We're at a stage where I can practically count the pores on Kratos' face in God of War and make that my own minigame. In fact, it's something made even easier thanks to photo mode, which every modern game seems to include nowadays. Sony is so obsessed with pushing graphical fidelity that they're willing to remaster games that aren't even a decade old yet, slap on a fresh coat of paint with barely any differences, and for what? So we can see every bead of sweat, every wrinkle, every meticulously rendered nose hair? Take The Last of Us Part 2, a game so ridiculously detailed, so brutally gory, where every kill is animated with such painful realism that it completely undercuts its own message about revenge bad. The game wants you to feel bad about Ellie getting revenge for what Abby did to Joel with the 9-iron, but when the violence is this visceral, this polished, it's hard not to think,
Whoa, that was cool.
Instead of, maybe revenge isn't worth it after all.
No shit! We know revenge is terrible! We've seen this story before!
Sony is obsessed with turning video games into cinematic experiences. And look, I'm not saying that's inherently a bad thing. It's honestly impressive that we're at a point where games can feel like blockbuster films to a point where they get their own blockbuster films. The Last of Us got a TV show, Twisted Metal got one, there was an Uncharted movie, and as earlier stated, as much as I don't care for it, there's even a Horizon movie on the way. I can't pretend that's not an achievement. The problem is that this is what all of their games have become nowadays. Sure, these games offer incredible big budget experiences, but once you've beaten the story, collected everything, unlocked every upgrade, and grabbed all the trophies, what's left? What reason would you ever go back to play them again? Short answer, there really isn't a reason. And don't say mods, because if I want that experience, I'd have to shell out another $60 to $70 just to play one of these games on PC. The two things that modern games, especially ones made and published by Sony, lose are the most important things that video games need to make people want to play them again: replayability and fun. At this point, if I ever wanted to experience God of War again, or do another playthrough of Spider-Man, I would probably have a better time just watching someone else's playthrough on YouTube rather than playing them myself. These games are huge, and I just don't have the time or the motivation to go through another playthrough. Even if there's a new Game Plus mode, which is just doing everything again but on a slightly harder difficulty, what's left to do after that? Walk around, admire the world design, maybe pick a fight with some enemies here and there, but after that, nothing. Once the story is over, the world just feels empty. And because of that, the fun feels like it's missing.
Good question.
Like, let's compare Sony's open world games to Rockstar's open world games. In GTA 5, once you finish the story, you can still go around causing absolute chaos, blow things up, and go on rampages. In Red Dead 2, you can still ride around and be an outlaw. But in Sony's games, you have to actively seek out fights after the credits roll. The world doesn't feel alive anymore. It just becomes a really pretty backdrop with nothing left to do. This is exactly why Sony needs to take a page from not only the indie gaming scene, but their own extensive library of retro games. Older games and most indie titles respect your time. They're still fun, creative, and full of that same sense of experimentation and wonder that Sony used to bring to the table. In fact, several indie game developers are now pulling inspiration from PlayStation's own classics. Take my favorite Sony IP, for example. These games are short, maybe an hour or two long depending on how well you play. The gameplay is simple, but the music more than makes up for it. Not just in quality, but in sheer charm. This series was even popular enough to get an anime. In fact, Ape Escape got one too, by the way. But not too many people really know about it. And now, years later, we have two indie rhythm games keeping PaRappa's spirit alive: Friday Night Funkin' and Scratchin' Melodii. Scratchin' Melodii plays like a mix of PaRappa and Jammer Lammy, switching between vocals and instruments throughout the songs, but the big one here is definitely Friday Night Funkin', an absolute beast of a game, and it's not even fully released yet. Thanks to the modding scene, there are many new songs coming out almost on a weekly basis, some of which are way better than the ones in the base game. No, I'm not up for debate on what I just said. Mods like Mario's Madness, Step Right Up, Spookies, Silly Billy. Okay, a lot of these are horror themed, but still, these songs are great. And for a personal favorite of mine, Hazy River. It's hard not to look at FNF and admire the absolute impact it's had on gaming and the internet as a whole. So you'd think Sony would see this and say, hey, these games are blowing up and they're basically spiritual successors to PaRappa. Maybe we should capitalize on this and make a new game. But nope, instead they're gearing up to pump out yet another identical open world game. No, I'm not bitter. The ringing in my ears said so. If they're not going to make a new PaRappa game, the least they could do is properly remaster one of the older titles. And no, the PaRappa the Rapper remaster on PS4 doesn't count, because it's literally just a graphical, polished port of the PSP version. Don't believe me? Just watch the credits. They only list the PSP staff, not a single mention of a PS4 team. Hell, even the copyright year is 2007, the year the PSP version came out.
What a ripoff!
Or hey, here's an even easier money-making win. Port Jammer Lammy to modern consoles already. Right now, if you want to play this game, you have three options.
One.
Fork over $70 to $100 for a physical, pre-owned, completed copy from somebody on eBay and run into the potential issue of the copy being a bust like I did and having to buy another copy. Dig up a PS3, pray to whatever deity is available that is still connects to the internet, and buy it for $6.
Three.
The best option, emulation, baby! Seriously, Sony, why are you leaving Lammy in the trash? You put the other two games on PS4 and 5 just fine, but she gets nothing? She has the second best game in the series. Whatever the case, the series needs new life. It has so much potential, and I should know. I wrote the Cosmic Instruments. It's practically a Saturday morning cartoon in game form. Remake one of the games. Give the series a revival. Hell, if you're not going to make a game, at least give us a cartoon since you're open to making shows and movies. Just do something. I need to see the boy again. By now, you get the point. Sony is sitting on a gold mine of classic IPs and doing jack with any of them. Meanwhile, companies like THQ Nordic and Grasshopper Manufacturer are bringing older titles back into the modern era. Games like Battle for Bikini Bottom, Destroy All Humans, Shadows of the Damned, Lollipop Chainsaw, all of these and more are returning to the public consciousness. Even Nintendo knows how to handle remasters right. Just look at Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door and Super Mario RPG. Sure, they're remakes, but like Medieval on PS4, they're remakes with the feeling of being a remaster. So why can't Sony do the same? They've already proven they can make great remasters. Ratchet & Clank, Demon's Souls, the previously mentioned Medieval. They know how to do it. And yet, instead of bringing back actual classics, they're giving us remasters of remasters, like The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us was originally on PS3. It got a remaster on PS4, and after Part 2, Sony decided to remaster the remaster and call it The Last of Us Part 1.
Confused yet? Me too. Woohoo! 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 Woohoo!
And now, Part 2 is getting a remaster? Why? Why? It's not even a decade old. It's already one of the best looking games on this generation. What a complete waste of time and money. Speaking of which...
Damn. I'm only burning my half.
Live service games. Live service games, for those who don't know, are games that receive ongoing updates and content after their initial release. Think Dead by Daylight, Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, and so on and so on. Sony, desperate to get in on this action, poured a ton of time and money into their own live service projects, some of which actually worked out, like Helldivers 2, Gran Turismo 7, and MLB The Show. However,
I've got a little list. They've
invested in almost 20 of these sons of bitches, and a huge chunk of them were cancelled before they even saw the light of day. A God of War multiplayer game? Scrapped. A Twisted Metal revival after 13 years? Gone. Last of Us multiplayer? Axed. A bunch of generic sci-fi projects? Never happening. And most recently, the Horizon MMO?
Dust in the wind. Shaman gets sued by Kansas.
But let's not beat around the bush. We all know why I'm talking about this. We know who the real guilty party is. The true laughingstock, the biggest screw-up in Sony's live service gamble. Concord. Sony was hyping this game up like it was going to be their very own Star Wars. They acquired a team of devs, Firewalk Studios, in 2023 just to help work on it. Then in 2024, it was finally revealed to the world.
Oh my god.
It isn't pretty.
Yeah, people did not care. Right out of the gate, Concord was getting roasted. Even during its own section of the State of Play showcase it was revealed in. But Sony, they stuck to their guns. They were determined to see this through. Then, August 23rd, 2024 rolled around, and then, well, you tell me what happened.
Oh, I'm a goofy goober, yeah. You're a goofy goober, yeah. We're all goofy goobers, yeah. Goofy, goofy, goober, goober, yeah.
Yep, one of the biggest gaming flops I have ever seen. Sony spent $400 million in 8 years developing this game, only to shut it down after 2 weeks because nobody wanted to play it. And just like that, Firewalk Studios was axed with it. And now, Sony's looking at their live service games and nervously wondering which ones they should or shouldn't cancel, like they're stepping on eggshells. Now don't get me wrong, I do feel terrible for the devs who lost their jobs over this, but come on, it's really funny. Sony could have put all that time, money, and effort into literally anything else. Reviving beloved IPs, remastering a classic, taking risk on new single-player ideas with a multiplayer mode, but instead, they went all in on what might be their most expensive new IP ever, and that gamble failed spectacularly. But the real kicker, the real cherry on top, the game that released right after Concord went dark. But before I talk about that, I want to discuss the State of Plays real quick. For those who don't know, State of Plays are basically Sony's answers to Nintendo's Directs, where they showcase upcoming games for the consoles, some exclusives, some multi-platforms, the usual standard considering E3 has, for lack of a better term, been taken out back. The problem is, Sony's State of Plays have either been really lackluster or flat out bad. It doesn't help when rumors start coming from which way and where on Twitter that people are naturally going to be disappointed because they expect something to appear rather than taking the rumors as they are and go in with low expectations.
I've been duped.
Literally. There's only one person I know who comes out of these shows happy, Dawko. Though, I guess it isn't hard when you expect one thing, and when you get that one thing,
I got those for...
you'd be happy too. The problem is, not everyone is expecting FNAF. They are expecting something first party, and Sony, in their recent State of Plays, have mostly shown games being made by third parties that you can find on other platforms, or the occasional remasters. Speaking of, remember my rant about them remastering their games that aren't even a decade old yet? Well, guess what?
He's at it again!
This game isn't even 10 years old, and they're releasing a remaster for it in 2 months. Why? What exactly is there to remaster? What, are you guys going to put another crappy filter over the game like you did with the Until Dawn remaster? Is this a joke? Because if it is, I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say,
It's not funny! It's never been funny! It's never gonna be funny!
but time will tell how this will turn out. Still, it feels like a massive misstep. Anyways, it's time to wrap this video up and talk about the game that upstaged Concord after it shut down.
Perfection.
Oh, this right here. This is exactly what I've been talking about since the start of this video. The essence that has been missing from Sony's last few gaming generations. The third entry in the Astro series, Astro Bot, is heavily inspired by 3D Mario games, and it shows. You play as Astro Bot, zipping around the galaxy to repair your ship, rescue over 300 other bots, uncover hidden Easter egg bots on the main planet, unlock costumes, ship skins, and just soak in the pure fun of it all. And the gameplay, my god, it's a 3D platformer with the works. A combo punch, a jetpack assisted jump, secrets crammed into every corner, and items that act like animal buddies to help you traverse the level. But the real cherry on top, the VIP bots, the absolute biggest draw for this game. And boy howdy, let me tell ya, Team Asobi did not hold back. They pulled off miracles getting the rights to feature these characters because alongside returning favorites like PaRappa, Lammy, Nathan Drake, Kratos, Jack, Daxter, Sackboy, Spike, Spectre, and the Monkeys, they somehow got Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Amaterasu from Okami, Dart from The Legend of Dragoon, Teneo from Incredible Crisis, or as my friends like to call him, the Ferris wheel fucker, Mr. Mosquito, and Sly Cooper. He's finally out of Egypt, and yet he's still stuck in the desert. And that's just the base game. With the recent updates, new speedrun stages, a beautiful Christmas level, and even more DLC planned in the future, this game keeps getting better. Astro Bot is everything I felt was missing from Sony throughout the PS4 and 5 generations. The experimentation, the inspiration, the creativity, and if that wasn't good enough,
Astro Bot!
it won Game of the Year. Nobody saw that coming, but there it was, Astro Bot, shocking everyone watching the Game Awards. And thanks to its success, Sony is finally looking into bringing back their legacy IPs. For the first time in a long time, the future of PlayStation actually looks hopeful, because now there's a chance, a real chance to see these classic franchises return to coexist with the massive open world Sony has given us. And honestly, I can't wait to see what happens next. Well, maybe I should just hold my breath for now. Wait a minute. What's this? You can't be serious. People still give a damn about the console wars? In 2025? Dude, some people need to get a life. So hey, just as a quick update during the editing of this video, they dropped the release trailer for Metal Gear Solid Delta, and they showed that they're bringing back the Aim Escape minigame from the original PS2 version of Metal Gear Solid 3. The Astro Bot effect is real. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please consider giving a like, subscribe, and maybe check out my other videos. I know I do tend to be unorthodox with my uploads, but I am going to try and make a commitment to upload more often and deliver some quality videos. I'm thinking of doing more reviews, more joke videos, or discussion videos like this one. I definitely had a blast writing it. I will admit, I did use ChatGPT to help me tweak some parts here and there because I'm not fully confident with my script writing. But I did my own tweaking on it afterwards so it felt more natural for me to read. But use of AI tools is definitely a topic worth discussing another time. Again, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Have a good day, afternoon, or night, and take care.